Oh, good Sunday morning. Welcome to New Hampshire and welcome to a special live edition of At Issue. I'm Corey Smith.
And I am Sue O'Connell. As you can see, we've taken the show on the road. We're in Manchester at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel. This is where all the big media and small media outlets have set up camp to cover the New Hampshire primary.
We've got some new faces in store for you this half hour. A couple of seasoned New Hampshire primary vets are here and a pair of young party activists as well.
All right, so as you know, we're less than 2 days from the polls opening, so we're focused on the leading candidates in the Republican Party. We're going to hear from them coming up.
And of course, we're also looking at the Democratic race. President Biden not on the ballot, but some familiar faces are in the Granite State rallying Democrats for a write-in campaign.
And this morning, we're getting a look at our latest exclusive Suffolk University, NBC 10 Boston, Boston Globe, New Hampshire primary tracking poll. 500 likely Republican primary voters were asked who is their first choice. Former President Donald Trump has increased his lead up 2 percentage points from yesterday to 55%.
No change for Nikki Haley overnight. She is still firmly in second place with 36% support. And Ron DeSantis in a distant third. His focus has actually shifted out of the Granite State. He's just sitting at 6%. And somehow still 2% of voters undecided. All right. It's going to be a big day on Tuesday. We know the big-time coverage calls for a bigger team, so let's go ahead and bring in our colleague, NBC 10 political reporter Matt Prichard here, joining us on set. Good morning to you. You've been in Manchester longer than Sue and I have, for sure.
That's right.
Maybe longer than some of these candidates. Feels a little bit warmer than Iowa,
it does.
I'm guessing.
I'm glad to be in New Hampshire. One, to just be closer in New England, Massachusetts, everything else. But, yeah, the cold temperatures in Iowa were something else.
All right, Matt, let's start with the Republican race. As we're seeing, the polls are indicating former President Trump has a comfortable lead, but polls are just a snapshot of what's happening and who the pollsters speak to. What's your sense of what's going on in the field with voters in the Republican primary?
Yeah, and in New Hampshire in particular, polls can be a little bit misleading since a lot of folks here in the Granite State, they make up their mind very late. And that is what we've seen at these different candidate events. Granite State voters still trying to vet these different candidates, make up their mind in the final lead-up. Of course, we know Donald Trump with that big lead. He was at SNHU Arena last night with a big crowd, as we're accustomed to seeing for the former president. But Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, both out there and still garnering a good crowd showing up. Nikki Haley certainly more, Ron DeSantis a little bit less. But the voters I've spoken with said they still haven't made up their minds. Some are sort of in between, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. But I also think the conversation is starting to shift to who can actually be competitive against former President Trump. And many of them seem to think that's Nikki Haley.
All right, let's talk about the Democrats. We've seen Bigfoot more than we've seen President Biden, that very clever Dean Phillips ad. I know you've been speaking with him as well as Marianne Williamson, challenging this incumbent president for the Democratic nomination. What do you make of where that race stands right now with this big write-in campaign going?
Yeah, I mean, it really is fascinating. We've seen Biden's supporters getting out and trying to encourage people to write in Joe Biden, but we know it's tough to get voters to the polls in the first place, let alone have to go into the booth, write down somebody's name, and check a box as well. So we'll wait and see whether or not that will actually be successful for the president here in the Granite State. When you talk about Dean Phillips, he certainly thinks this is a place where he might be able to build some momentum and try and convince Democratic voters that there is another option out there for them. I mean, I've spoken with him multiple times. He's very optimistic, of course. That's sort of his MO. We also got to see a unique moment out on the trail where Biden write-in supporters were right across the street from his campaign headquarters. He came out with coffee and was going, "Where's the president?" So he's taking advantage of his moments where he can get them. Of course, Marianne Williamson, she's been around this block before. She thinks voters at least know her by her name and are hoping, well, maybe a few of them will come out and sign her name to the ballot.
All right, let's look back at the Republican race. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis playing a little bit of peekaboo with New Hampshire this week. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Am I mixing my metaphors when I'm back on Ted Lasso? Anyway, there's a meet and greet with him today at 5 o'clock. Do we think he's going to be in the race next Sunday when we all do the postmortem on what happened up here?
I think it's really hard to know what Ron DeSantis is doing right now. I mean, he came out of Iowa, a place where he spent so much money and so much time, still finished in a distant second behind former President Trump. He tried to spin that as, look, we still beat polling expectations. A lot of people thought we'd be in third. We edged out Nikki Haley, and we were in second. But as you guys have mentioned, he has been sort of crisscrossing the eastern seaboard, going to Florida, South Carolina to New Hampshire, back and forth, left and right. His campaign seems to be saying that he's still going to be in this race, that we're on to South Carolina after this, but he has an event later tonight in Manchester that we will be watching closely to see if he has anything to say.
All right, Donald Trump, a known commodity. We've talked about Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley. I'm looking at my paper here. Ryan Binkley, another Republican candidate. Who knew? There was a fourth.
You know, and he came in fifth in Iowa ahead of former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, which maybe that was the catalyst of Hutchinson getting out of the race. Binkley felt like he got a little momentum there. He was in the fifth spot. He was mentioned on the Stephen Colbert show. He feels like maybe there's a little bit of traction coming his way. Exactly. We got a chance to catch up with him while we were here in New Hampshire. Take a listen to what he had to say. The primary is on Tuesday. Let's go to Wednesday morning. What does a victory look like for you?
3.5%, get a delegate, keep moving up the ladder. You know, we're going to be breaking national news. Some big media has left us off the board. Now they're putting us back on the board, thankfully. And let's get back to the national media. I mean, we've never had that breakthrough. Other people they've heard of 70 hours on Fox, CNN, national media, they haven't heard from us yet. So we've got a unique message. It's balancing the budget, but it's also caring for the hurting in a different kind of way. Not just money, but with you and me, seeing our city, seeing the people, changing our country. I'm running for an economic revival in our country, but also a spiritual revival. It's time that we shake it up here in America. If you want something different, you can't keep voting for the same things. Vote for someone different.
So again, New Hampshire is a great place because there's so many different options for voters to choose from. He also has sort of a unique campaign phrase. I'm not going to do the acronym, but you can do it by yourself. It's Way to Freedom, and he has it across his hat. He says, what else would it stand for? So anyways, it's a unique situation here.
Matt Prichard joined us here on set. Safe travels to you. I know we're going to see a lot of you before Tuesday, so we really appreciate you taking the time. All right, you know, one thing, Sue, to consider as we see these polls, New Hampshire has added quite a few new voters since 2020 through people either aging up or perhaps moving out of the state. These numbers you're seeing here on your screen come to us from the 2023 Granite State poll. It was done by the University of New Hampshire. Take a look at this. 245,000 potential new voters between newcomers moving to the state, young people reaching the voting age. Of course, the state has lost voters too. People have left or sadly passed away. But consider this. Those 245,000 new voters make up more than 20% of the potential voting pool. So 1 in 5 potential voters on Tuesday will be voting in New Hampshire for the very first time. That is just sort of the context that all this is taking place in. A lot of new voters out there, but joining us now, 2 veterans, 2 men who have been either great. Your words, not mine.
Not new voters. Not new voters.
Not new voters. They have been following New Hampshire primaries for decades or helping to shape the campaigns that have been run here in the Granite State by leading candidates. Scott Spradling previously served as a reporter and political director for WMUR-TV, now serving as the president of the consulting company, the Spradling Group, and Pat Griffin on my left, the founding partner and CEO of the consulting company Merrimack, Potomac, and Charles. You've worked with a lot of folks. Republican media consultant for 4 U.S. presidential campaigns. George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush. Remind me, I think they won their election, so you've got a good track record.
Well, yeah, up until the Republican Party became where we are today, which is a very, very different place.
Thank you for the segue. I really do appreciate it. Let's talk about former President Trump. His grip on the Republican Party here in New Hampshire among those primary voters still very tight. We saw the numbers from our latest tracking poll with several days to go showing him still with a comfortable lead. Pat, I'll start with you. For Nikki Haley in that second place, are there enough independents and Democrats willing to jump to her ship and perhaps take Donald Trump down the primary?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it is a terrible mistake to look at Iowa and look at New Hampshire. Look at the 14% of voters who showed up in thermonuclear winter, right? A very, very small, unrepresentative, even sample of Republican voters. When we come to New Hampshire, it's a whole different thing. We know about education levels. We know about income. The Democrats left New Hampshire because it doesn't represent the country. It is too white, too suburban. It doesn't really show sort of what they think the country looks like. However, the voting profiles here look much more like what will happen in a general election. I think it's a terrible mistake to call this race right now because this is the black swan primary. If someone gets through New Hampshire and they can hang around long enough for the foibles of Trump to continue, whether it's an indictment, not an indictment, a conviction on some of these indictments, or whatever else Donald Trump sort of runs into, there will be an opportunity for someone to be the alternative to Trump. Nikki Haley needs to close the gap here. It's been done before. Happened to me in 2000 with George W. Bush and John McCain. It has happened to Hillary Clinton here when Barack Obama had this race up in the very same poll you just referred to by 14 points going into the weekend before the primary. We all know what happened to Barack Obama here. Went on to become president. I would say it's a terrible mistake, which is why Donald Trump is not taking his foot off the gas. The Trump people are not running like a guy who's going to crack 50%. They're nervous. They should be. This ain't over.
Scott, I keep telling people, anybody who says they know it's going to happen in this year is out of their minds and not paying attention, because it's like you're a baseball fan and you show up opening day and it's a soccer game and you're like, what the heck's going on?
Good analogy.
Do you see a path for all three of these main candidates, for Trump, DeSantis, and Haley? I mean, obviously for Trump, but do you see a path for them to actually get the nomination?
If I'm being honest, I don't see a path for DeSantis right now, but I absolutely see one for Nikki Haley, because as you pointed out, with the number of brand new voters, the predictions we're seeing from the Secretary of State, which is approximately 320,000, give or take, Republican ballots that are going to be cast in New Hampshire, and because we're an open primary, to Pat's point, you've got tens of thousands of unaffiliated voters that are still sitting out there. The pool is deep and broad for someone like Nikki Haley to be able to make, in the next 48 hours, a very powerful closing argument. We saw something similar happen on the Democratic side of the aisle back in 2008, way back when Hillary Clinton surged out of a loss in Iowa and literally in the last few days of the campaign turned things around. So the pool of voters is absolutely there, and she just needs to make the closing argument that closes the enthusiasm gap that I think we're seeing right now in the lower levels of the polls, where Trump people are excited, everybody else is here. So we're just waiting to see if she can close that gap.
Well, Nikki Haley's probably looking at those numbers, because over the past 48 hours, the delicate issue of former President Trump's mental competency has become an issue. Of course, it all started with a comment that he made at a rally on Friday, where it appeared that he got confused between Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi regarding the January 6th insurrection. We're going to show you what he said that brought this issue to the front and show you how Haley responded. Take a listen.
By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley, you know, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything, deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, whatever they want. They turned it down. They don't want to talk about that. These are very dishonest people.
When you're dealing with the pressures of a presidency, we can't have someone else that we question whether they're mentally fit to do this.
Scott, we're not doctors, and we've all misspoken. We've all confused people from time to time. I do it every single show. But I have to say, are you surprised it's taken Nikki Haley or any of the other candidates this long to attack Trump when they've been attacking Biden for sort of the same issue?
I mean, yes and no. It's such a difficult high-wire act that she has to walk with something like this, because she doesn't want to alienate the very people she needs to win over in some way, shape, or form, because, let's face it, Donald Trump has a absolute iron grip on the Republican voters within the Republican Party. In an open primary like this, we're talking about independents closing the gap and helping her maybe succeed or rewrite the narrative of the primary process right now. But the polls are showing in multiple states, not just in New Hampshire, we saw it in Iowa, when the front runner has half the party in his back pocket and really excited supporters. That's a really hard thing to overcome, because you need those voters in order to be able to close the gap.
Pat, we know that soundbite from Trump and Haley's response is going to make the news cycle up until Tuesday. Would you put it in an ad? You know, is it something that maybe a PAC out there would say, let's go ahead and go at Trump this way?
The fact that we're just now talking about Trump's mental component here is slightly shocking to me. I mean, the behavior of Donald Trump is out for diagnosis anyway. Here's the problem. Nikki Haley can't say this. I can't. At the risk of being indelicate, we have an octogenarian and a near octogenarian looking like they may be the nominees for president. The distinct advantage both of these men would have, Biden and Trump, is they will have the ability to hide their own Easter eggs based on the way they're behaving. This is not a particularly encouraging thing for a country that has all of the problems we face in this world. So here's the question. Is there this generational change out there? Those new voters we just identified, swing voters, independents, do they come out, as Scott said, and make up the gap? Are they enthusiastic? And have they, in fact, had enough of the drama and chaos of Trump, even a Trump who might be a bit impaired, as he gets older and less able to identify whether he's talking about Nancy Pelosi or Nikki Haley? It's a good question, and it will drive right through Tuesday, I believe.
All right, we've just got a little bit of time left. Let's talk about Ron DeSantis. Is this it? Is this going to potentially be the beginning of the end for his campaign?
I think Ron DeSantis won't see happy hour today as a presidential candidate. What that is good and bad if you're Nikki Haley. The question is, does he endorse Donald Trump, which is the sort of the company thing to do? Ron DeSantis is a young man. He's got a future. Or does he do what Chris Christie did, maybe not with the hot mic, and simply say, I'm out, I'm done, and step aside? I don't think he's long for this world. I don't know whether that helps or hurts Nikki Haley. I suspect those votes are more Donald Trump's voters.
I was going to say, would those votes, DeSantis' votes, go to Nikki Haley?
I don't think so. I think probably 4 and 5 of those votes go to Donald Trump. So this just adds a little bit more momentum and fire. And to Pat's point, if you're Nikki Haley, you don't necessarily want DeSantis out of the race yet because it can bleed away some of those Trump votes. But what we're hearing behind the scenes with the connections between campaign and media is that the DeSantis team wants cameras at this event at 5 o'clock. You don't want that unless you've got something important to say, and that to me suggests endorsement.
All right. Scott Spradling, thank you so much. Pat, thank you so much. We'll see you coming up before Tuesday, so really looking forward to continuing the conversation. All right, when we come back, what are the big picture concerns driving young voters to the polls this Tuesday? How many of them are actually going to turn out? We're going to hear from a few party activists, one from each party, when At Issue returns.
Welcome back. With a little less than 48 hours to go, all of them are out and about making their final pitch. And you can still get your chance to meet those candidates by scanning the QR code on your screen. That'll take you to our candidate tracker showing the events they have coming up in New Hampshire. So get out and see them if you haven't yet.
All right, joining us live here at the desk, K.R. Epstein, VP of Political Affairs of the New Hampshire Young Democrats, and Virginia Dry, Chair of the New Hampshire Young Republicans. Thank you both for being here. We really do appreciate it. Look, we know age has been a big topic in this race, not your ages. Just want to put that out there. With that said, we know it's a factor. Do you think it is going to be a deciding factor in this race? We'll start with you, Kara.
I don't think it's going to be a deciding factor. I think folks are going to be able to see that some of the candidates have a lot of experience, and while there aren't any young candidates in the race, young people do care about experience.
I'm going to agree with her in the sense that it's up to the voters to decide that for themselves. And in a sense, the Republican Party does have a wide variety of candidates from all ages. So in a sense, it does matter, but to the individual voter.
The young adult voters on both parties share some concerns that it sometimes seems that the candidates of each party are not. On the Republican side, we saw a debate this year where a question was asked about the climate crisis, and the candidates on stage did not do a great job answering it. And of course, the issue with Gaza and the Palestinian issue on the Democratic side also getting pushback from young voters and the older candidates. What are the issues that you think the candidates are addressing that are important to a younger voter?
I think on the Democrat side, the climate crisis has been addressed multiple times by all of the candidates, which I really appreciate because that's one of my top issues, as well as reproductive rights. All of the Democratic candidates are talking about the things that they will do in office to make sure that everyone has the right to choose, and that's really crucial.
How about on the Republican side?
So in the sense, all topics have been discussed. So we actually have also discussed the environment and also national security, especially the economy. That's one of the main issues that many young voters are looking for in the Republican Party.
When it comes to the things that young folks care about, what are maybe we in the media missing? What are the candidates? What are you not hearing from them that you think they really need to speak to if they want young voters to ultimately carry them over the line?
I'm going to say it's really about listening. It's very much because there's so many topics. It's not just 1, 2, or 3 issues. It's so many issues through a broad, the entire spectrum of politics. And it's about government and politics. It's internal in the sense of states. It's external in the sense of national. So there's so many issues to pick from. So it's very hard.
Before we get to UKR, do you think they're listening?
I think
Haley
they are.
DeSantis Trump?
I think they are. And I think being in New Hampshire and having these events to have these voters talk to them is important in the First in the Nation primary.
Kara?
So I think there's a lot of questions this year, especially about the enthusiasm gap with the candidates that are running. And I just want to say here that there's no enthusiasm gap among young people, especially in the Democratic Party. We are very excited about this primary. We're ready to get out there and vote on Tuesday. So I would like for the media to kind of say, okay, maybe these young people know what they're doing. They're educated and they're ready to make their voice heard.
Do you think that the write-in ballot initiative has been a barrier, though, to some young people that might just be getting involved in politics, and now they have to go through this extra step and they don't have the opportunity to meet the candidate here in New Hampshire? That's Joe Biden I'm talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it a barrier because the write-in effort has been a grassroots effort that has been very successful in getting the word out throughout the state. There have been visibility events throughout the weekend into Tuesday in literally every corner of the state where people have signs that show a sample ballot that show exactly how to write in Joe Biden's name. And, you know, Joe Biden isn't the hardest name to write in, right? And you just have to fill in a bubble. And, like, I think we need to give young voters credit where credit is due. We all know how to write Joe Biden's name in and fill in a bubble.
Do you feel, going back to that enthusiasm, do you feel like the candidates in the GOP primary are putting those young faces out there? We saw Elise Stefanik, regardless of what you think about her, she's younger than Donald Trump, she's younger than Joe Biden. Are you satisfied with the young faces that you're seeing? Because ultimately that is the future of the party.
And it's for all campaigns. So several of my members are on various campaigns, ones that are well known and some that are less known. So there is engagement from young voters in the campaigns and also in just in general regular voters.
I just want to quickly ask both of you, what are the obstacles that young people, young adults, people under 30 have getting connected to politics? I often say that we have a very complicated system here in the United States. What do people tell you quickly about why it took them so long or they're having a hard time getting involved?
I think it starts in college. It's really hard for college voters, especially if they're going to college in a different state than they live in. It can be really confusing for how to register to vote, how to vote, and I think we need to be making it as easy as possible for college students to be able to vote.
I would say it's basically getting the sense of knowledge. This seems overwhelming, definitely, but it's very simple. It's very much that all politics affects your wallet, your basically your education and everything in your life. So in a sense, politics affects everything, so it might seem overwhelming, but it's very simple too.
Got about 45 seconds left. I want to ask you both, what role is social media going to play in getting young voters out?
Oh, huge. It's a definitely, that's the game changer of young voters is the social media side. And it's definitely an aspect that we got to think about in the future as well.
Yes, social media is incredibly important for young voters because that's where we are, and you got to go where the voters are.
All right, K.R. Epstein, Virginia Drive, thanks so much. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, engaging younger people to get involved in votes. So thanks so much, and we appreciate you coming by here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue, I want to ask you, does it behoove both campaigns, all of these campaigns, to focus on young voters?
Yeah, and focus on the issues that they care about. I mean, I think that's to both of their points. Everyone loves experience. It's not the age of the candidates, it's do they hear what the young voters, the young people are talking about, because that helps them also get connected to their parties.
All right. Thank you both for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for joining us for this live edition of At Issue. Just 2 days to go until the First in the Nation primary. Of course, we are going to be back with more coverage. We're going to be joining you again Monday night live at 7:30, where we'll be joined by Boston Globe political reporter James Pindell. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Corey Smith.
I'm Sue O'Connell. I'm going to get the snacks and we'll get ready to go, so stay with us.
Enjoy your Sunday, everybody. Election season is here, and NBC 10 Boston will be live in New Hampshire for the first in the nation primary, keeping you in the know until the last vote is in. Decision 2024, the New Hampshire primary, all day Tuesday on NBC 10 Boston. Political coverage worthy of you.